Alrighty guys, welcome back to another one. Recently, one of you guys asked if we could do some 20 gauge 31 cal number 0 buck single lot in 2 3/4 inch and 3 inch. Yes, this is a clear hull, and yes, it is 20 gauge. These come from Gum Gully Provision. I forgot what it was for a second. Yeah, Gum Gully Provision. Just Google it, you'll find them. They have these in both 2 3/4 and 3 inch. But as for the 3 inch shell, I'm just using a Fiocchi. Both of these are brand new primed hulls. 31 cal single lot buck is the biggest size you can fit in 20 gauge. In some hulls, like these Fiocchis here, the 32 cal actually fits okay. It's a little bit tight, but it's sort of like loading the quad buck in 12 gauge, except for the 32 cal is a little bit tighter than the quad buck would be in 12 gauge. You can make it work with a roll crimp, but when you fold crimp it, it tends to bulge the hull out a little bit too much, but you can do it. However, whenever we fire 32 cal in 20 gauge, it almost always tears the hull up. I just don't do it. I've tried putting 32 cal in Shadite hulls and Federals. The plastic is a little bit too thick. It does bulge those out. It's best just to skip using 32 and 20 gauge unless you roll crimp it and you don't mind a little bit tight fit. It might be great for single shots or doubles or even triple barrels. But anyway guys, the components we're using is once again a brand new prime Shadite 20 gauge hull. This one just happens to be clear. Brand new prime 3 inch Fiocchi hull. This one happens to be yellow like 20 gauge normally is. We're using some long shot powder. One of my favorite powders. Actually, this is my favorite powder. These are no longer made, but this is the Ballistic Products low profile gas seal. Now, if you have these, then just follow this recipe. It works great for us. If you don't have these, well, you can't get them anymore, but you can get the Obturator 20 gas seal, and if you have those, take out 1/8 inch of the fiber cushion wad that we're also using here. Speaking of that, we have 1/2 inch fiber cushion wad. You will need the entire 1/2 inch using the low profile gas seal. But again, if you have the Obturator 20s, take 1/8 of the gas seal, the fiber cushion wad off. It's really a shame these were discontinued because, as you can see, they are fairly thin. You can get some good payloads in 2 3/4 inch 20 gauge. An ounce and a quarter is no problem with this gas seal. I've got quite a few, so I'm glad to have them. So this here is the round we're making first, the 2 3/4. This is 10 pellets of 31 cal. It's about a 1 1/8 ounce load, including the buffer. Without it, it's 1.05, so basically ounce and a 1/16. But yeah, very nice looking shell. But without further ado, let's do. We need 19 grains of long shot. Again, this is going to be a 1 1/8 ounce load or right at it with the buffer. Without it, it's 1 1/16 ounce, 1.05 to 1.06. We need 19 grains of long shot, and that's going to propel this up to about 1200 FPS. I did manage to lose my powder dipper, so I made one out of a 32 gauge shot shell, cut down to 1.5 inch, and it's glued to a pin. But yeah, 19 grains of long shot. We have our 19 grains. Always double check it, and yep, we sure do. Now we need the low profile gas seal. Another reason why I like these is because it is a nice good tight fit in these hulls. Maybe you can hear the air rush out. It turned sideways. It's so tight it was hard to push down, and it turned sideways on me. That's okay, just take it over to your press and seat it like that. And as you can see, that gas seal comes up to where some powders such as Blue Dot or maybe even Green Dot would come. Yeah, we have a lot of hull capacity left. This basically turns a 2 3/4 inch shell into a 3 inch shell in terms of capacity, using something like a regular target wad that would take up a lot of room. This takes up next to no room, again allowing for really nice capacity. Next, we need the entire fiber cushion wad, 1/2 inch, and that looks just like that. Already looks really cool, kind of like an old school load. Again, if you have the Obturator 20 gas seal, use it and remove 1/8 inch of that fiber cushion wad. I failed to mention this when I was going over components, but we are using a Ballistic Products My Thin Mylar wrap, which is for small bore, 20 gauge to 410. Wrap that up, set it down in there, and that Mylar wrap comes up right here, which is right about where the crimp line is. So nearly every pellet should be encased in the Mylar wrap, which should stop the hull from being ripped up, and it helps with patterns just a little bit. Yep, it looks like maybe half of the top row will be above the Mylar wrap. 10 pellets of tumbled and polished hard cast 31 cal number 0 buck single lot. This is from a Lee 311 mold. After tumbling, they come out to 309, 310. Real quick, as you can see, the 31 cal with the Mylar wrap is tight enough to where it won't fall out if you turn it upside down. Without the Mylar wrap, it's still a little bit tight fit, but they will fall out. The total lead payload weight is 1.05 ounces, which is right at 1 1/16. With buffer, it's going to be a roughly, again, 1 1/8 ounce load. I'm using Ballistic Products BSB buffer, which was ITX buffer, but it has been rebranded, same product. We have the top row of pellets about halfway covered. That is all you need, and this looks awesome. Clear 20 gauge shells are really cool. Now we need a, well, I don't have any 20 gauge overshot cards or nitro cards, so I'm using a 24 gauge nitro card. These come in sections of 3, tear off one section, and use that as your overshot card. 24 gauge is so close to 20 gauge that you can use the nitro cards as an overshot card just fine. 6-point crimp, which is the front station of the Lee Load-All. Now, one thing I've noticed with the 20 gauge Lee Load-All is that the depriming station and the pre-crimp and, well, both pre-crimp stations are the same as 16 gauge, so if you go a little bit too hard with the pre-crimp, you will bell the crimp out. You don't want that. It can lead to really ugly crimp, so just kind of watch what you're doing there. You don't want to ruin your crimp. I don't know why Lee does that. You would think that they would make true 20 gauge pre-crimps, but they don't. This is a really nice looking shell, guys. And here's the crimp. Looks great to me. Pretty deep set, nice and even. It ain't crushed in nowhere, concave, none of that. We are not bulged out anywhere. This is a great looking shell. And that is the 2 3/4 inch 10 pellet 31 cal single lot buck load. Okay, so this one's going to be a 12 pellet load, which is closer to 1 1/4 ounces. Now, we need 17 grains of long shot. Once again, using my homemade powder dipper. Yeah, 17 grains. This should get us around 1100 FPS with an 1 1/4 ounce load. Yes, we have 17. Guys, we've shot quite a few of these. The 12 pellet 31 cal with 17 grains of long shot. It patterns really good. The low profile gas seal, once again. I'm going to actually use one of Gary's wad tampers to seat this. That's a tight fit. If you want any of Gary's tools, facebook.com/gary.d.caskey. Wad tampers, hull trimmers, wad slitters, wad trimmers, and a good variety of some other really cool stuff. So again, facebook.com/gary.d.caskey. Next, we need the 1/2 inch fiber cushion wad, which I already have in here. I forgot I was recording, went ahead and shoved it in there, and it was off camera. So, yep, 1/2 inch fiber cushion wad on top of the low profile gas seal. Next, we need the Ballistic Products My Thin Mylar wrap, which is for the larger bores. It's a little bit taller and a little bit wider. With the My Thin Mylar, it's actually a little bit too tall. So all you want to do is trim off about 1/8 inch of it. And yes, this was previously loaded into a 10 gauge shell. I broke it down because I didn't need the shell anymore. But yeah, get it down in there. And this one is right here, which is exactly where the crimp line is. So every pellet will be encased in the Mylar wrap. Now we need 12 pellets of the 31 cal single lot. And if I didn't mention it, these do stack by twos. That should be obvious though. I know this is very hard for you guys to see, but yep, I was right. Every pellet is encased in that Mylar wrap. It's been a while since I've loaded one of these, and my memory was right. Every pellet is in that Mylar wrap. Shouldn't have any issues with your hulls being torn up with this load. So the lead payload weight by itself is 1.24 ounces, which is basically ounce and a quarter. With the buffer, it's going to bring it up to 1.28 to 1.29. I spilled a little bit of buffer, that's fine. The other one was 1.1, the 2 3/4 inch shell total payload weight. And once again, top roll of pellets is about halfway covered. Total payload weight is 1.29 ounces, so just a little bit more than an ounce and a quarter. That low 17 grain charge allows you to load just a hair past ounce and a quarter without going over pressure, although this load is at the upper end of 20 gauge 3-inch pressure cap. Once again, tear off a piece of the 24 gauge nitro card, or if you have the 20 gauge nitro cards, use it. Again, I'm going with a 6-point crimp. You could do 8, it really don't matter. You could even roll crimp this if you want to. And again, be careful not to bell out the crimp. Oh yeah, that's another good one. And here's how it looks, guys. I do have a little bit of a pinhole. I didn't get enough pre-crimp on it. That's fine. Off camera, I'll just open it back up with a pair of needle nose pliers and give it a little bit more pre-crimp, and that'll get rid of that tiny pinhole you see right there. Or I may not even worry about it, to be honest. It's got a nitro card under the crimp, it's fine. So yeah, guys, there is a 2 3/4 inch 20 gauge and a 3-inch 20 gauge loaded with 31 cal single lot, 10 pellet and 12 pellet. Now, if you want a little bit heavier load and possibly a little bit more velocity too with the 3-inch, get you some little gunpowder. You can do up to 1 5/8 ounces in 3-inch 20 gauge using lead shot or TSS with little gun in 3-inch. It's a pretty good load. Well guys, I think that's going to do it for me. Please like and subscribe. We always appreciate that. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down in the comment section below and we'll get back to you. And if you want to, go check out our Patreon. It's as low as $1 a month and you guys get early access to content. A link to that, as well as a link to our Instagram and Rumble accounts, will be in the description below. But other than that, you guys take it easy and we'll see you in the next one.